Hello, everybody. We're live. I may be a little stilted in my ability to communicate with you because the help button on my screen has decided to land exactly where the thing is that I can respond to you. I can write things back. So, to Darlene, who posted hello from Ottawa, I said, "Where in Ottawa?" I had two cousins who grew up there, the Woosters, and when I went to click on it, I realized the help button, which I had been pushing on earlier. Let's see if it went away. I figured out how to make it go away. Thank God. Now I can control the conversation. I know that's obscure to y'all, but there's a little sidebar that I have to be able to run to talk to y'all. Anyway, how's everybody doing? We got three brave people who put questions in. I am taking personal questions today, and if you would type them in bold, that would be very helpful. Let me see if I have that banner that says to do that. Please, yeah. Because otherwise, it's really easy to miss them, to not get to where you need to go. What I was trying to do through StreamYard today was I have found a marvelous video where someone has strung a whole bunch of pendulum like things on pendulums like they're on a xylophone. So there's a longer end on one and shorter on the other. And when you view it from the side and they pull the board away, they all start shape, um, arcing at the same point, and then the arc breaks up, and then they go extremely chaotic, and then they slowly come back together and they appear to be right, and then all of a sudden they go back into that extreme amount of chaos, um, and uh, then they eventually slide back into a normal pattern. And I was going to try to show you that today, to show you that there are vibrations that do lead to chaos, but that's going to have to be for another day because it won't tell me how to get that video over here. Okay. No, we're not going to invade Greenland. And before we invade Greenland, other things will happen, trust me. Okay. And here's another. So that's my feeling. I could lay cards on it, but I can tell you, Rose Blue, it's like him doing the whole thing with Colombia. And the reason Biden's been sending plane loads of Colombians back that didn't meet our requirements, but he just sent them back in an airplane. And Trump's putting them in handcuffs and shackling them. And and the Colombian government, when they were told that's how their citizens were being treated on that plane, they said, we won't accept them back until they would take them all back. We just have to take them out of leg irons. And Chitolini doesn't want to do that. So these are the sort of false stories you're hearing in the news. Oh, he's taking care of it. He's sending them back. He's doing these big, brave things. He is doing the byproducts of a male bovine is what he's doing. And no, Greenland's they got to take it serious because he's nuts. I mean, and I don't know if he sent the Navy up there what they would do. I know Greenland's with Denmark and Denmark's in NATO, and that would put two NATO nations against each other. So welcome to the wonderful world of why I don't do politics more broadly. I do it on Sundays with Scott, and a couple of people asked me if I'd answer questions today. I'm dead serious about wanting to know what y'all want to hear about when for topics. I have a lot of topics I can talk about, but I don't know what bores you. You've already heard enough of that. You don't care to hear any more, and however you work that out. in your own mind. But, I don't know. We had such an incredible response to the show on elementals that I'm going to teach a thing on elementals, but I think I'm going to unfortunately have to put it behind a paywall, guys, because um, I need more readings. I need to teach more classes, and I've been trying to set that up. My tarot class does start Friday, a Thursday night. A lady asked what time it was. It's at 8 p.m. Central Time. So that's 9 p.m. in the East, 7 in the mountains, and 6 in California. And the reason we moved it was at 7 o'clock, which was set for my convenience, because if we start at 8, it means we're not done till 10. And it takes me a couple of hours to wind down after I've worked with anything, whether it's the cards. When I used to read at night at the wine bar, I cut my hour at 10. I left at 10, and it would take me 2.5 hours to calm back down. That's just part of being a reader. Other readers may have different effects, but I don't. So um, there's that. But so I'm, and I put a list of the things we can talk about. And because I want to keep having open Tuesdays. And then on Tuesdays is also the day that I invite people in and have a fascinating, she was a Reiki master. She's done several other things. In about 3 weeks, she and I are going to have a class where she's going to do a deep dive into looking at the characteristics of the hermit, the number 9, because we're in a 9 year. And it's going to be an interesting show. I talked with her about it yesterday. So that I'm serious about that. And from what people say they want to hear, I'm going to put out a survey. So watch for that. And it'll ask for your opinion, and it will tally it all up for me, which would be lovely. Good morning. Thank you. This lady lives near Parliament Hill. Unfortunately, when I went to Ottawa to visit my cousins there, it was my father's sister's sons, the Woosters. And the most fascinating part about being in Ottawa was he played a slide trombone, and I got to sit in a room and watch him play a slide trombone. And I was young enough that was the most fascinating part of the entire trip. So, and let's see what other questions we have. Okay, I'm going to read this one with cards. A client is refusing to pay me for a lot of work I've done and has now sent emails saying he will pay me, or he will, but is he trying to cheat me? A flower, beauty, peacock, rainbow. I don't know where you live, and I used to run a small business, and I redid houses, and that wasn't teeny tiny, but it wasn't like massive. And we would occasionally run into people who we fixed it by creating a different contract, but we do work for them. But while you're doing the work, if you're taking down wallpaper, repairing walls, or fixing, structures in houses, you base it on what you can see. And unless they let you know there's something else going on. In the case of one woman, it was this big bathroom in this old 1920s house. And when I peeled the wallpaper off, there'd been a medicine cabinet in the wall. I mean, there was a hole into the wall the size of a medicine cabinet that the old wallpaper was so stiff. And I'm sure whoever picked it to paper it had done it for that very reason. So I said, well, we need to repair this. And she said, how much is it? So I wrote it down for her, and she said, oh, fine, I have no problem with that. So after we hung all the wallpaper and did all the work, she wouldn't pay for she said, you should have known there was a hole in that wall. I can't see through wallpaper. That's when we got the contract that I carried with me for each job, and it had an amendments on it. So if something else came up that needed, or I needed to wait because a workman that was supposed to be in there before me, so I could do, because I always did sort of the last work that was done. I don't know what your laws are, but I'll see if he's genuine about wanting to pay you. I'll ask that question. And but I'll tell you, I quit that business in the year 2000, but my husband and I ran it together. It was very We were very good at it, and people really wept when we quit running our business because they said we were the few people they could invite in their house and go run errands, and they felt okay. And I really had people calling me when I was on being the executive director of a statewide agency. And I said, no, I really can't get out of this place, put on my overalls, and go to your house and fix your stuff. They were very upset. So let's see about if he's going to pay. Do a simple yes, no on it. You're going to have to push him to do it. He for some reason he thinks some of what you did he doesn't really want to pay for. He's got the 9 of Cups there, but when he finally pays, it'll be all at once. He will pay you all at once. But in the near future, he's going to have a few economic downturns that are going to make him rethink, how am I going to share anything? So I'd push him now, and I'd check the laws. And before you continue to work at whatever it is you do, I would check the rules of how you can make sure your ability to be paid is secured. And the other thing about that is I always made them pay a third of the labor costs up front and all the material. And because I found when I used to just trust them and they're going to pay me at the end, they always found something. But if they've got money in the game, they love your work. Now, I don't know what kind of work you do, but that worked for me. Okay. And we're going to go to, oh, I'm sorry about this. Will my nephew's murder ever be solved? What I'm getting, just my spidey sense part of me, is telling me that there are people who have a lot of information that if they ever just sat down and got concentrated on it, they could figure it out. I mean, they could get it to the point that they could do something with it. They're going to find out who did it. They're going to know who did it. The investigation was not well handled, and they also were not at their best. They were not in their hermit mode when they were doing it. But there's been a woman detective who's been on top of it, and she's been much better, and she's taken some information up to her bosses. But one of the reasons they're not moving forward with it is they don't think they have, this is the 8 of Swords, they don't think they have the information to get the person put in jail. But it says yes, but it's a yes and a no. It's no, not right now. And I don't know. You know, there is that thing about family members that call and keep up with it. That does make a difference to the police. I used to be the head of the Dallas Crime Watch, which is the group that works with the police about things, and I got to know a lot of officers. I got to know a lot of the upper chain all within our police department, and it's a very large police department. And that really does, they're people just like we are, and it makes a difference to them if you have a family member that's involved in thing. And I had a stepdaughter who died tragically at the age of 40, and she fell asleep one night and didn't wake up, and she fell asleep on Christmas Eve and didn't wake up. And so it was over the Christmas holidays when the police were already short-staffed, and she died in her brother's apartment. And the officers that came to work with the ambulance people about it, we're supposed to set up the ambulance to pick her up. It ended up, it was an officer I knew, and so she put a watch on the whole case. And we knew how she died. She died of cirrhosis of the liver. She was an alcoholic. But the ambulance, because it was Christmas Day, the ambulance did not come get her. I mean, the wagon that takes them to the morgue didn't come and get her. So finally, I called the officer who'd been at the scene and I said, no one's shown up. What's going on? And then they all hopped to and took care of it. And they did it. They hurried up her autopsy because it came in with one of the division chiefs saying, why hasn't this been taken care of? This is Mrs. Lloyd's stepdaughter. And within 3 days, I had the whole autopsy, and they said, do you want us to send you the autopsy report? I said, no, I know how she died. She died of cirrhosis of the liver, which is unfortunate, but it was what she did. And but the fact that they even had a name to attach to it, because I was talking to another officer about it later, and he said, oh, if they have any name they can attach to a piece of evidence, they'll follow up on it. They try to do the best they can on all the cases. I don't know where you live, Strawberry Rhubarb. I know I've talked to you about things. I'm not sure where you are, and I know that that's how it can work. So any pressure you can put on them, they will tell you. Someone has information. They know someone they want to get. They just can't figure out how to get having the evidence and having enough evidence to be beyond a reasonable doubt's two different things. Linda Bruce, will myself and my family be okay going through February? Okay. Someone in your family is sick, and it's leading to a lot of discomfort and a lot of problems within the family, and you're just not sure which way to move. That's the Fool upside down. It says you need to be very wary. The reason I think someone's sick is the opening card is the Three of Swords, and that's usually an illness or heartbreak. You've got a lot of threes. You've got 3 threes in here. And when threes show up, it means a lot of people are having to talk to each other and work things out and be cooperative. And none of your threes are right side up. So I don't think they want to be cooperative. If someone in your family does fall ill, there's going to be those awful things that happen in hospitals where when people haven't pre-planned who takes care of what and how much medical treatment they want, it's a real pain because the hospital, you're leaving it to the hospital staff to try and figure out which person to follow. And I know all about this because when my husband died, we'd already been through a whole seminar on death and dying and how to deal with it and when you're in hospitals and what are the rights of family members when they have someone in the hospital. Because I grew up in hospitals. My dad was a doctor, and they will try to play a lot of games with you if you're not on top of it. If you have a real illness coming in your family, going through February is going to be a rough month. Y'all are going to come out fine. There was nothing in there that showed death, demise, or leaving. There was no like I'm out of here card. But there's just going to be it's when people arrange readings with me, and I do 3-month readings, year readings. I'm finishing up the year readings. I do situational readings, past life readings. But when people do readings with me, and they'll say, well, I just know what to say, but the 3 things I don't want to hear they're going through is someone died and there's a will. That's never good news. It's a good news there's a will, but it usually means there's problems. And then the other one is we're having a wedding. There's a wedding in the family, or the birth of the first grandchild, and you've got grandparents squabbling over grandchildren. None of those are things a reader wants to hear. But I don't know what your family's going through. I think it's based around someone not being well and you having to make some tough decisions. And there's going to be some discordant voices, but usually the ones who say we need to do everything are the people who won't do anything. So, Linda, my email is crystaldirections.nancyjean@gmail.com. It's in the description. Send me an email and we'll work something out because if it gets grim. Okay. I don't know. Jen, what's going on with federal funds? I don't know. They don't know. Until we get someone in there we can trust to go count the gold that's at Fort Knox, we don't know nothing. And that's unfortunately the chaos we're about to go into. I spent an hour last night talking to a woman who I mentor, who her whole background's in banking, and she is she called me to tell me something happened that I kept telling her it was going to happen, and she never believed me. But it was a man who ran a major bank who just picked up and went off, and he just took over a company because the person, it's a long story. The guy ran this company, got an offer he couldn't refuse, so he brought this guy in. And I kept telling her he's going to be leaving that company, the one that he has just left. She never thought he would. And all I keep feeling is around money, funds, banking, Wall Street is going to be, it's going to be a ride. I don't think we're going to be ruined by it. Well, I'm not going to be ruined by it because I don't have any stocks. So, okay, I posted. Oh, I've got it, Ness. I'm going to do yours in a minute. Okay. Oh, yeah, let's not talk about Cittadini. He's going to bluster. And, I mean, unfortunately, he has the nuclear codes again, and he is a 6-year-old. Okay. And you're right, Rose Blue. He does have a history. But, hopefully they're more mature. And I think the Colombians are handling it exactly right. They're not accepting the flights. As long as they know that's what's in the flight, they're not accepting it. And yes, and we're all sorry, Strawberry Rhubarb, about your the death, the murder in your family. Murders are just terrible. I mean, they're just terrible because they shouldn't happen anyway. But they're very difficult to live through because there's so many questions about it. Oh, Rose Blue. We'll see, because all that money's been set aside. It's in agencies. It has had laws passed to put it on, to spread it to other places. I'll see if he can do it. I don't think there's a lot of things he's saying he can do that he can't do, and then they just take him to court, and when they're in court, the judges always say keep things flowing as they were. Okay, I'm going to go to the people who did the right thing and posted their questions early, and this is SFW 1964. I have a question. I have 2 pendulums. Do they each have the same energy for each other, or is it just my energy that moves them? Thank you. Pendulums have their own way of being. Let's see if I can find mine. Is that my threesome? No, that's not the threesome. Is that the threesome? I have 3 pendulums. Nope, that's not it. I have a ton of bags full of things here. This is it. And I got these pendulums, and there actually are 4 different reasons if you really study up on pendulums. If you get to know your pendulums, you'll find some work better for personal questions, some work better for natural questions. And these 3 pendulums are, this one's crystal. You can see it's got, you can see through it, and it's nicely weighted. It's got the metal on the bottom that helps weight it. This one is completely metal, and this one I use outdoors because it doesn't blow around. It only swings when it gets the movement to swing. And then I have a wooden pendulum, and I've used that a little bit. I've experimented a little bit when someone wanted me to check a space and see if it had energies in it that shouldn't be there. And but those are 3 different materials, and it would depend on how you relate to the materials. Of course, I relate better to crystals. I have an old pendulum that's almost 50 years old that was fabricated for me by a crystal lady who put it together, and It's a cluster of stones. And when she put it together for me, she told me she did it. There's every color of the chakras are in that cluster, and she made, and that one I use the most, and I have the most confidence in that one when I'm reading it. I feel the best with it. Then I had my fabricator who made my garden. She made me this out of black obsidian, and I use that when I'm doing past life readings or want to read over a particular card. I don't think anybody's ever seen me do that on the channel. I haven't had a question that meant for it to be raised that way. And when you're looking at a pendulums, one of the things you can do is ask the pendulum if you have the permission to dowse, and figure out which way. Well, ask which way is yes for you. Then ask if you have permission to dowse, if you're protected by all your guides, and there's 3 things on it. Anyway, if you go to my website, you will find a dowsing chart that you can just download and see. And when I bought this pendulum set off of Amazon a while ago, it's called the dowsing pendulum. That's the 3: the crystal, the metal, and the wood. And it has a whole little tutorial that goes along with it. But it says for you to connect with your pendulum, and then you can ask the pendulum if it wants to participate in that type of question. I always would pendulum wherever I'm going to read. And I was going through the 3 questions, and I got past is it safe? Can I pendulum here? Oh, and that's what it was. It was, am I connecting to my higher self? And then when I asked if it was safe, the pendulum actually ripped out of my hand, and I'd gone back to a vintage store I used to read at some, and it jumped 2 aisles across the store. And so I knew something was amiss. So I went around with the pendulum, and I found the booth that had the stuff in it that made it less than safe for me to read. And so I did a prayer of protection around that, closed that space in, and then I went back and I said, "Is it safe for me to read now?" And it said yes, the pendulum. So you get to need to know your pendulum, and it's not your own energy. That's the other thing I'll tell you is people, I'll pick up a pendulum. It's really easy to read. It's a really easy concept to get a hold of reading, but you're actually asking the universe to join with you in understanding how you're going to do this, how you're going to dowse. And that's the other thing that I have under references. There's a folder about references when you go to my website, crystaldirections.com, up in the top, you click on that. There's a whole book about how to dowse, and it was done by a guy named Walter, and he was the accepted person in the 90s and early 2000s about divining. And he started responding to questions from this young woman, and it ended up, they wrote enough letters that it became a book. And he talks about all the different ways you can use to dowse, whether you're dowsing for water or energy, or in your own space, dowsing your own body. I mean, all those things. He goes into all of it. It's about 40, it's a PDF that's about 40 pages long, and it's free. So, but I believe, what I feel is that you are connecting with other energy, and it's coming in. You're channeling, just like the people you see who channel. I mean, when I read cards, I channel too. Channelers just don't use any other materials to bring through their images. I feel safer using something else to bring through the images. But with pendulums, you are bringing in stuff. And when I taught the first course on the garden, I give everybody at the beginning of all my classes, I give them the violet flame, which is also cleverly enough on my website if you go up into the references folder. And it's a prayer for protection. It's a prayer to call in Archangel Zadkiel and the Ascended Master Saint Germain and some angels. And you ask them to swoop through every crystal, every stone, every piece of furniture, every piece of fabric, all the paper, whatever's in your house, whatever could possibly be in your house, to sweep through, find all low, discordant, um, troubling energies from this and all dimensions and time. And you ask them to scoop up the bad energy and take it away. And this is how I explain it. It's kind of rude, but I ask them to take it away to the laundromat in the sky for bad energy. And it's called the Christed White Light because it was a Christian prayer originally. And it takes it up to the white light up there, runs it through the laundromat, and then you ask it to bring it back. So you're not taking anything out of your environment. You're just making sure you got rid of the bad stuff. Well, there was a woman who thought that prayer sounded very charming, and she'd been messing with cards and crystals and pendulums and different things for years. And so she thought, well, I'll just read it here in my room and see what it feels like. She had a room that she worked in. This where she had her little setup, where she prayed every day and all that stuff. And she did it, and she thought, it must be the power of suggestion because this room seems so much lighter. And so then she decided, I'm going to go around the rest of the house. I'm going to say it in every room. So she went around the whole rest of her house. It's a short prayer. She said it in every room. And she thought, it must be the power of suggestion that it looks lighter. So the next day, an old friend of hers who visited her frequently came by. And she said, did you change the drapes or change the lights in here? Your house seems so much lighter. And that proved to her that she had been slowly, and it wasn't stuff that made her feel bad or anything else, but it just darkened the light that can be in your life. And the object in this game for me is I want light in my life. So go look at the violet flame, and maybe I'll do a whole show on the violet flame, but look at that stuff. And your pendulums may have two very different feelings. You don't tell me what material they're made from or anything, but certain crystals attract certain kinds of energy, and it maybe something like that. But you can ask it. Are you happy answering this question? And it'll maybe refer you to the other one. Okay. I'm curious about a community or possible romantic relationship for me. So you're looking for a change in your relationships in 2025. Yes, is what I'm getting from this. And what do I see? Well, we're going to ask the cards what they see. Okay. All right. Pretty kitty cat cards. Yeah, you're going to have to make it yourself. Okay. Okay. You got the Ace of Pentacles, and it's not just going to arrive like a plentiful gift. You're going to have to work at it. It shows you working with other people. So I don't know if that's a romance or what it is, but it's going to be of absolutely your own making because the magician's there, and that magician is stealing with their own power. You keep waiting for some giant event to come shake you up and move you forward. And that's not going to happen, Ness. It's going to have to be you. And I think if it's anything, you're going to be with a light-haired gentleman or a guy who's very compassionate. It's going to be with you when you make this change or transition or start to find this. He could be a possible romantic relationship, but he's the Knight of Cups. And I just kind of warn people about Knights and Pages are not yet finished growing. And I think I'm at an age where I don't want to help someone grow up again. I've done that. at least once. Not to mention my own having to grow up. Okay. I'm considering my tro. This lady wants to know about the tro class. It's Thursday night. It's um what time does it start? It starts at 8 p.m. Central Time, Pam, and we tape all the lessons. So if you're worried about getting back from work in time, or I don't know if it means you have to be gone at that time, we'd love to have you. I have 2 spaces left, and then that's it, because I only put 10 people in a class if I can avoid it, not having more. Okay. My for okay. I don't know where you live, dear, and I'm sorry. In America, unfortunately, until the last few years, I thought justice moved rather swiftly, but we're getting back into some old world movement. Um, I just continue to press him and play on his whatever his sympathies are that can get you to pay for it. I mean, to get him to pay for it. Okay, let's see. Okay. I jumped forward, so I'm going to go back to where I had some other things marked. I posted. Okay, we got you. That's true. He's going to set the world off by pissing everybody off, but it's what he's doing. And, they'll, unfortunately, his temper tantrum is costing the citizens that live in this country, not just because they're going to be costly to us right now, but also because they're going to take time to repair the damage he's done. Yeah, let's see. Okay, here's another mystery. 19 years ago, Jennifer Cass vanished 19 years ago from Florida. Oh, is she still alive? Her father believes yes. Okay. I'm just going to ask if she's alive and give you what. Jennifer Cass alive. No, I hate to tell. Daddy's living with a lot of hope. He wants the family back together. That's 10 of Cups. But what I see is what I've got is 4 no's and 2 yeses. And the yeses are not, was it 15 years? 19 years ago. She may have already reincarnated. Is what I see. No. And whatever happened around her, it was some guy she was dating or someone out of that crowd, because there's a Knight of Cups, and the Knight of Cups is also known as the liar, the clever liar. So he was there, and then there's nothing in suspension. This is a hangman upside down. There's nothing to be seen that would change this. And actually, I think she may have already reincarnated. But I don't, I have a feeling she's not with us. So, okay, we're getting into ugly orange mess. Jen Miranda says there's huge Border Patrol ICE presence everywhere in California, Arizona, and Mexico, on the Arizona-Mexican border. Pop-up checkpoints too. Well, it's like I told you, the people they're sending back to Colombia are people who've been identified. They took them back. Biden was sending people with the same profiles back to their countries. He was doing it humanely. He wasn't delivering them like they were prisoners. They were letting them get on the planes. And as the president of Colombia said, that I want the people of my country to be treated like the citizens that they are. And I'm sorry that, let me get rid of that one. I got to hide that. Oops. Back to banners. Back to comments. Okay. And Sharon Sipes put in all my good information about how to find me. And also, guys, if you really would put thumbs up, my membership just jumped in the last week again. I'm really happy with that. They tell me that less than 50% of the people who watch a channel ever subscribe. They just kind of wander in and wander out. And the best way to stay in touch with what my channel is doing, and it does a lot of different things. Okay. I think he'll pay. What I saw was, yes, he's likely to pay. But, the second he offers you anything to get it paid, take it, because he's looking at a negative financial situation on his own end. So I would get him to pay me. Oh, yeah, that's probably part of why, even Strawberry, even if they've had people tell them we know exactly what happened, if they're part of the gang, they're considered not reliable in the court, which makes no sense to me. I mean, if you're part of a gang, who are you going to hang around with? People that sing in the choir? I don't think so. Aaron missed. All right. Okay, so he has interviews this week. One is a medical facility, the other is a builder. Okay, I'm going to lay 2 lines of cards, and I think I'm going to go to showing the cards because I'm getting tired of holding them up. I woke up this morning with a bit of a cold, so I'm not in the best of moods that way. I'm fine. I can read, but I just, they said, yeah, you're fine. You can't even get the camera on. We're going to the table. Okay, I'm going to lay 2 lines for your question. One is the medical facility first. I'm going to use a different deck of cards because these are getting stiff. They're like, we don't want to read anymore. Oh, if you watched my show on elementals with Danny on Wednesday, you remember I was talking about that the fairies do things and they take things and they do things to get your attention. And one of the things they'd done was, when I wasn't producing the elemental shows as quickly as they wanted, about 6 weeks ago, my bunny cards disappeared. Well, my bunny cards are back. They were sitting over on the shelf where I had left them before, but they were not sitting there when I was looking for them before. And I like my bunny cards because these are happy cards. Okay. And they'll do 2 lines. The first one is the medical facility, and the other is the builder. When are you interviewing? I have 2 interviews this week. Tomorrow's new moon, I think. Yep. And okay. Medical facility. Well, that's a yes. That's clearly a yes. And it's going to take you away from what's been a difficult keeping you up at night situation. The position they're going to offer you is going to put you in a place where you're going to feel happy. You're going to be dealing with your own power. And you have 2 aces, and both of them are good. The Ace of Swords, you can tell your truth there. And the Ace of Cups. So let's see what the builder offers. I have shuffled these cards, guys. Either of these 2 jobs will work for you. I think just based on the basic um, cards, I would go with the medical facility if they offer to you. Um, the builder, they put you under a little more of their control. There's somebody at the builders who's a little more difficult to work with. I would say the devil's putting it a little hard, but there'd be a balancing act, and you'd feel strung between two people. You're not going to be in one department. And I would say if the two that offer you, they're both going to offer you jobs. I would say go with the medical facility. The builder has some problems you can't see when you're interviewing. And we've all had jobs like that, haven't we? Okay. Um, Aaron missed. It depends if those contracts are already drawn and the money's been set aside, those will go through. The damage he's going to do is going to take a little bit longer to go through the economy. And as he decides to pick winners and losers, if he stays in that long. Okay, I'm going through everybody else's. Okay. Will my children find their spiritual way? I'm going to use a more serious deck for that comment. Bunnies are fun, but will Cece's children find their spiritual way? Well, the sun right side up or upside down. They're kind of lost at the moment. One of them's closer. They're very argumentative and they put up every false fight they can about spiritual issues. And let's see. I'm going to ask. So they're not finding it right now, but they're enlightened about it. They know they need it. They just won't move towards it. So I'm going to do is in the long term. Yeah, they're going to find it in the long term, but it's only after they continue to keep beating themselves up. And it's just a complete lack of optimism. I don't know how old your kids are, but it's a complete lack of optimism in people of a certain age. And the world isn't changing the way they want it to change. And there's a lot of disappointment, grief in that. But I see one of them growing well. I have the Page Cups here, who in the right now is trying to optimistically. They're more emotionally better attached, and yeah, they're going to find it in the long term, but not right now, not suddenly. And they just have to go through. They just have to go through their journey to get there. So you need to keep on your path, and that'll be a light for them. Will I get rid of the sinus infection without antibiotics? Not everybody's favorite thing, antibiotics. Okay. Okay, Linda. Yeah, you're going to make it. You got the, it's going to take longer than you want, but you've got the fight within you to do it. It's just you need to slow down. It's not just you have to sort of slow yourself down a little bit and quit trying to do everything for everybody so your body can heal itself. You're out there trying to heal everybody else and not taking care of yourself, or else you're going to be using antibiotics, girl. I think what people are sensing is um, there's a lot of places, I don't know where they're going to find workers if they send home all the people who might have questionable papers in Texas. And the president doesn't fund us, the Congress does. He cannot, with an order money that the Congress, this is a separation of powers that he absolutely refuses to believe exists. And it absolutely does. So don't get, I mean, if you're going to worry about something else, worry about whether your sinus infection is going away. Don't worry about things that he actually, I wish everybody had had a better civics education because what's your spirit message? Okay, we're going to do a spirit 7 for Jason. Okay. You came into this life to make a lot of changes and make things differently because in the last life in your the energy you carried in with you was you had difficulty getting your spirit to move and to go because in the burden you carried into this life was we actually had a lot of really good things happen. That's a 5 of Cups. But it's reversed. It meant you looked at the world half full. You didn't fight people without. You didn't do a lot of false fighting. You didn't steal from other people, and you were kind of a good guy. And you wanted to bring the energy of change that he, by being the Knight of Pentacles and the knight who planned and did and things, by bringing that energy into this life. So where have you ended up? The Queen. Oh, the Empress. And you meant to come in to bring change. And your memory of living as a human was that things flowed very easily. Spirit's telling you that that's coming, but it's not here yet. You're not at the completion of how much you can bring in, but you are really clearly a person who had brought in a very bright message of how life can work. And that's what you need to work on. Your spirit messages is to keep working on that and to bring in as much love and to release as much stress as possible. And that's their message for you right now. I'm going to put some cards on her and see what the Empress tells me about. You had an incredible past life. Let's see. Let's mark you for the Empress. Okay, you've been choosing to make. Recently, you've chosen to make some bad decisions, but you can get back into the graces of living in the garden like the Empress. You need to work closely with other people and been making better decisions. Someone around you has affected you and made you wander from your own good thoughts. So I would definitely, if I were you, Jason, I'd go with my own instincts and I wouldn't listen to what other people tell me to do. Because you got some interesting stuff heading toward you. Rose Blue wants to know if her parents should move back in. Is now the time for Rose Blue to talk to her parents about moving in? Yeah, they need to make a change. Death doesn't mean death. You see plainly that they need to make changes, and I'm going to get a different deck because those are almost the same cards I just dealt, and I don't really believe that's what the answer should have been. So we're going to do it this way. Money cards. Okay. And the other thing is you need to go see them in person, Rose Blue, because you don't know what they're like. I mean, we continue to change no matter how old we get, and I don't know how much. My guides just told me it was going to be kind of a funny answer before I laid it out. Yeah, see, this says yes, because that's what my guys were talking about. They said you need to really go evaluate it and decide if it's the best goal for you. And there's a lot of work to be done to move them one way or the other. You need to go evaluate them and see. Maybe it's one of your parents would be fine with moving in, the other one isn't. I don't know how that works out, but I think, and you got to remember, they're going to see you as a kid and you're inviting them into your home as an adult so you can take care of them. And will they accept you in the caretaker role? That's what the other reading was saying, is they won't like you being in the caretaker role. And it's not they don't like you, it's just anybody being in the caretaker role. I don't know who Shelley is, Linda, and since Shelley's not asking me that question, that's one of those questions where I think it falls over the line of where I should be answering questions about things. We only have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to look down and see. You're getting some advice in the chat, Rose Blue, about moving parents in. Okay, we're going to. Will the stock market collapse anytime through? The greatest rearrangement this country had was after the Great Depression, when people finally realized how badly they were being ripped off and took their country back. So it may take, and the oligarchs at that time just got richer during that period of time, but it really hurt the working class. So will the stock market collapse? They think they're sitting pretty. They think that it can't happen. The Knight of Swords is a disruptive knight, but it depends on how much truth happens. We're not getting told the whole truth. It's not just the stock market. There's going to be a collapse in how trade is being handled right now. And Darlene B., I don't know if he has syphilis in his brain, and I'm not going there. This was a question. And it's bad enough being this close to his energy. Oh, Rossi, that happens. My garden won't read political questions. I can't. And when I first made them 3 years ago, and Sheila and I did a show together, she said, "Oh, let's try." Every time we read a political question, stones would roll off the garden. And usually it was the mind, the mental energy would roll off the garden. And I said, I told you, they told me, When I created it, it was not to be used for political means. Yep, you can douse with coat hangers. That's true. Honey, that's a question I can't do in one lay of cards. If you'd like to get in touch with me or get in touch with another reader and take a long look at what's going on, I think that's more appropriate. I'm not ignoring your question, but that's got a long and complicated answer. Or maybe a short answer, but it needs to be looked at more than that. But thank you for being here today. Okay, guys, do not tie in to all the fears. Yes, the cost of eggs has gone up. They've gone up in the past. They're going up now because of bird flu. But if we go and chatter to each other every little stressful thought, we're building the fear, and we do not need to live in fear. We need to live in an understanding that the universe goes, it rectifies itself back to the center. Hi, D Spark. Let's see if there's anything else that. Okay, and the further north you go, the cheaper the eggs are. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we have bird flu here. My eggs do not seem to cost more, and eggs are a huge part of my diet. So, C. Covington, yes, we're going to have happy days in the future. We just need to hold on to that. And okay. It's after 1:00, and when I make these things go on forever, people don't watch. When they click on it later, they go, "Oh, it's more than an hour. I don't have an hour." So, Celtic Seer, I don't know why I didn't get the job. I saw that one, and I know a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to let y'all go and have a good time. And if you want to quickly type in what you really want to see shows done about, put a list of things in the comments. I'm going to send out a survey. I start my class Thursday. This is the last time I'll be on this week until I believe Scott's on Sunday, unless something else happens. New moon in Aquarius tomorrow. Write out your intentions. Write the most positive things you. I don't care if it seems like, God, how could that ever happen? It'll never happen if you don't start the initiative. So start it, get it going, think about it, do some intentions, and I will talk to you. Bye-bye.